speak about today is mainly with the change management, and how we brought blended learning was my change management project for the change management diploma within NUIG. But also I studied the blended learning to tell course with NUIG last year. So it's how I actually embedded those technologies into this blend change management within Marino College, but also bringing in the principles of the UDL. So I completed the summer project in UDL and the AHEAD UDL badge there before Christmas. And I really noticed by using the UDL badge, it incorporated a new ideas of when I was using any type of TEL within technology enhanced learning with my students, the importance of kind of the inclusion of that. And I'm going to show you a few examples today of how I included them and how they actually benefit for blended learning within a full college. So the topics that I'm going to kind of cover today is about kind of defining what the blended learning plan is for Marino College, the models of kind of leadership and their role. So how we're actually going to use leadership roles to encourage staff and to collaborate with staff to lead teams to help manage this change. An analysis of the team, so a breakdown of what type of team members you need for a full blend change within a college, and then also how to incorporate the UDL to blended programs. And also it's quite important to always evaluate obviously the progress. So throughout the year, I was evaluating the progress with students, with teachers, and with the leadership team as well on how this blended learning change management plan came into place. Okay, so first of all, we kind of looked at an introduction and a target group. So blended learning began in Marino College a few years ago with another teacher called Liz Hogan when she had the Blend for Vet program. And what we've done is over the last couple of years is to progress it on and bring it on to more courses and different modules. Obviously now with COVID-19, we were remote teaching as well as face-to-face teaching. So a lot of teachers kind of got that concept of blended learning. But what we're trying to look at here for the blended learning is not just that remote teaching, but actually turning modules into more of a blend module rather than just face-to-face, just remote. It's about integrating the TEL tools to engage the students deeper. Okay, so you could see there by Garrison and Kanuka that the integration of classroom is face-to-face learning experiences with online experiences. And I think that's what's really important when we're looking at blend, is that we need to still have that face-to-face, that kind of that community of practice that you're having, relationship that you're having for your face-to-face classes. And you'd look at different aspects of your module, what you want to use in your module as a face-to-face, what other parts of your module do you think are going to be enhanced by using some TEL tools. So for example, you might use your Padlets, your Kahoots, your TingLinks, your Nearpods, etc. And then maybe some other pieces of work that might be actually delivered remotely as well. So it's about combining those three aspects into any module. So the leadership plan is in alignment with the Technology Enhanced Learning Strategy Plan. So we're all aware of that with for the further education sector and with SOLAS. So they had plans put in place for blended learning to be incorporated to modules. So that's why we've started with this change management plan within Marino College, is incorporating both the SOLAS plan and the TEL strategy plan. And this will be all in line with your QQI for your Quality and Qualifications Ireland, is making sure that our modules are actually still meeting their standards. So setting priorities for the blended learning vision. Okay, so when we looked at bringing in this plan, so we're doing this change management plan for the college, we have a few different aspects to look at, and I followed the Moscow method for blended modules. And what way the Moscow method works is that you're looking at your must-haves, your should-haves, your could-haves, and your won't-haves. Okay, and it's a nice little breakdown to kind of give a priority list of what is essential and maybe what is not so essential. But do I have, just say for example, the toolkit to start delivering any blended modules? Do we have the toolkit for having the staff with certain, with CPD, with the skills to be able to deliver blended programs with the incorporation of TEL tools? So you can see there's a list of what we must have. So obviously we need to have qualified teachers and teachers that have the qualifications or experience or skills to be able to teach both face-to-face, remotely and with the TEL. We need to make sure obviously that we have IT equipment for both in the college and also for student access. And I think that's what's really important is when you're delivering any of these blended modules that students will need correct, maybe just say, for example, a laptop. A phone really isn't enough. A phone really wouldn't be enough, just say IT material to be able to have full access to, just say your blend material, okay? Having like that your virtual learning platform, so having your Moodle platform and making sure that it is fully set up for both teachers and learners. And then always making sure that our must-haves would be to have that support for teachers and our learners on the programs. So making sure that all teachers have the necessary skills and are supported throughout the process of delivering the blended learning, as well as giving that support to the learners, because it might be very different for them to say, for example, for the further education, if we're bringing it into level 5 modules, support for the learners, they're coming maybe straight from secondary school where they were fully used to face-to-face classes, where now you're going to be asking them to have their face-to-face classes, but also to log in remotely and also to use TEL tools as well. So the TEL tools is kind of giving them that bit of flexible learning that they might complete in the evenings, or it could be their day off college. So it's just to make sure that we're supporting the learners throughout this process as well. Also, I looked at the should-haves. Okay, so kind of making sure that we need to obviously have teamwork. Okay, so making sure all the teachers, admin staff, secretaries, students, support staff, everybody's working as a team to collaborate together to get the project up and running. Okay, could haves then obviously you have your necessities that the teacher, the college and the student would have the correct IT equipment, but maybe you could have, and you see this in a lot of universities, and I know some further education colleges have it as well, they would have designated IT rooms, or they're called little hub areas, and it's like a specialized IT area that students can go to for any maybe IT issues, or even it's like a secure place for them to be able to log into classes if, for example, you were teaching remotely and some students didn't have that opportunity for where they're living. Specialized IT teachers as well to support students out of college hours, because when they're using that the blended modules, sometimes students might be actually completing some of their coursework out of college hours. So it would be important as kind of maybe a blend teacher that you're maybe that bit more flexible, or there's somebody that's a little bit flexible on getting back to students with their queries. And obviously we won't have then, I was looking at, is that maybe all non-blended subjects learning material on the VLE. Okay, so won't have maybe some subjects maybe are not suitable for the virtual learning environment, or maybe aren't suitable for blended programs either. And then we looked at the blended learning team. And this is just a breakdown of maybe when you're working with a team to making sure people are kind of working together and we're working together on a common task. So for example, our specific project is the blended learning, and how we're going to design and implement these procedures are actually going to help get that buy-in maybe from staff to help work as a team. So you can see there that it filters down straight from the principal straight across, and you can see there's a huge element of the college staff is being included in that as well. Like that, you've admin, IT, learner support, and like that face-to-face online teachers as well. Okay, so it's mainly to look at that, is to get that buy-in and how everybody is going to work together on that common task. So the role of the blended learning leader within the change management plan. So it's about creating a vision, embracing that change. So a leader must sell the kind of organization he or she wants to create and motivate everyone to work together and put in the extra effort to see it through to the end. And that's just a comment from Matthew Kelly, but it's more like that about creating vision, that maybe when we're bringing in that blended learning plan, that it was really important that the leaders or the management team bringing in blended learning are going to be able to use it as a good example. So that maybe that they're using all of the good examples of TEL tools, they're using their remote teaching elements and the virtual learning environment to the best ability that they can. And by doing that and kind of supporting staff, it brings in JP Potter's, it motivates and energizes staff to produce a powerful response. So benefits of working as a team for this change. So this is the reason why we need that team. And you could see in that breakdown of the full college how much staff are involved with bringing in a change management for full blend for a lot of the courses or modules, is that we need to have kind of a good work environment. We need to work together as a group development. A lot of teachers or educators within the further education departments, we were all brought in as face-to-face teachers, and we are developing new skill set to become blended learning teachers. Okay, because it's very different skill set to teach your face-to-face class than when you're incorporating that remote or your TEL tools into it. And like that, it's kind of group cohesiveness and performance will actually involve kind of your membership, organizational, work environment, and a group development together. This just breaks down then of different qualities of the team leaders that you'll be looking for in just say each of the course tutors, that you're going to be looking for people to really work together to kind of communicate and collaborate is what's going to be really important. Maybe share ideas. Maybe, for example, what we have done over the last year of bringing in more of the TEL tools in the blend is staff have collaborated, we've shared our ideas and maybe been adaptable. Okay, so we've kind of shown to say, I said, right, I'll try out one TEL tool and somebody else tried out a different TEL tool, and you actually mesh up then and you communicated and said, so, okay, how did that actually work? What did the students think about it? We kind of evaluated and reviewed the whole progress throughout the change management. That's the breakdown then of the 8-step plan. Okay, so this goes through the Kotter's 8-step plan, and it's kind of the plan to try and bring it through the change management, because we are aware that it's not going to be just a progress that would have been done. It's going to be something that's going to be ongoing, and it's like a development. So just say, for example, it started off with the blend for vet, but it's going to be ongoing. And for example, the culture of change to bring a lot of the modules into blended, it's still going to be ongoing for another 5, 10, 20 years maybe. And it's looking at that kind of increased urgency. So we saw this year that we had COVID-19, and that brought in a huge urgency for teachers or educators to have the skill set to be able to teach both remotely as well as face-to-face. It's about building guiding teams and getting the vision right. We need to look at then our short-term wins, so kind of evaluating maybe every term or once a year to see, okay, what did actually go well, and bringing on the strengths of it. We obviously look at the weaknesses as well, but you'd also want to look at those wins and see, okay, what did go well, what can we actually enable any actions for this to get even further. Try to make it stick, so make this kind of change actually stick, that it actually becomes the culture within the college that teachers and students are learning on blended learning programs. This then is an example of how, just say, for example, blended learning or TEL is brought into a lot of modules, and we've all learned when doing our teaching qualifications about Bloom's taxonomy, but this is bringing in kind of a modern taxonomy wheel. So it breaks down the same way as Bloom's does, but it has all of the different a lot of different TEL tools along here. And that's why I think it's really important that we're bringing in kind of this blended learning change management plan, is that we're incorporating different analysis. Okay, so like that, helping your students to create, helping them to evaluate, analyze, apply, remember and understand. So we have a breakdown of so many different type of TEL tools, different ways that we can enhance our teaching and learning for our students. So for example, you might use a mixture of using our Teams for remote learning. We might use to say Create for some of our students, then we might use them for Nearpods. We used an awful lot of that this year, and bringing on the Nearpod, and especially when we were teaching remotely, it brought in a lot more student engagement and for students to actually discuss. Obviously bringing in then maybe the remember and understand. So we're bringing in, just say you might have your Quizlets. A lot of our students found them really beneficial this year, that using that Quizlet TEL tool helped them to actually remember and actually understand some of the material to get ready for any QQI or assessments. The same way you would apply, analyze and evaluate. You can see there's a breakdown of so many different kind of technologies that we can use within any of our learning environments. So then we're looking at our TEL tools. And when we're bringing in this change management plan, it was after studying the AHEAD UDL course that I felt that the incorporation of UDL to blended programs is really important. Because a lot of our students, especially in the further education setting, are coming to us with a lot of different learning styles. So we need to incorporate their learning style to any of our programs. So by looking at in a UDL program, you're looking at kind of creating flexible learning. So that's helping your learners maybe have that opportunity to actually learn and have full access to it. So that's why in our Moodle site, our VLE is going to be really important, or how we're actually going to embed any of our resources to our VLE. To create as well our personal learning, and that's bringing in our UDL. So to make sure that the learners can actually learn at their own pace. A lot of our students this year found that bringing in for the blended programs, having screencast-o-matics, having videos, having like that, even Nearpods, that they can actually look at them and watch them numerous times. So some students might find that, yeah, they got a grasp of it while they were actually on that face-to-face or the remote class, but actually some students found it very difficult. They didn't fully engage, or they fully didn't understand the material. So they felt that personal learning, by giving them an extra opportunity so they can re-watch some of the material later on that day or the following week, gave them more UDL properties. Also then our active learning, and this was really strongly encouraged this year, was to bring in more active learning, kind of encourage our students to use both their lower and higher order thinking skills. And I'm going to show you in a moment of how I use TEL tools to encourage this within a class for a QQI assessment. So this is going to show you an example of using TEL UDL for a QQI assessment. So for example, this is an assessment that students would have generally wrote a report about a beauty treatment and given feedback of how the beauty treatment went. But I changed how I actually analysed it and how I assessed the students this year, and I gave them an opportunity to have two opportunities to complete this task. So the one of it was the traditional method, was to write a report, or another method was to actually use it more UDL and give them an opportunity that they could actually do a presentation about the information. And it was really interesting that actually students really enjoyed using this aspect. So for this aspect, this was about a beauty treatments, and they had to do the report. So actually the students created their own Padlet boards, and I'm sure a lot of people are aware of what a Padlet board is. It's like a collaboration TEL tool board. So instead of, I had used them for classes, and the students really liked using them within the classes, so they wanted to create their own. So they got the skill set to actually create their own Padlet boards. Then we came into a face-to-face class, and they did a demonstration and a presentation of using their Padlet board and explained it. So I'm just going to press play to give you an idea about it.
Today we'll be doing a presentation on false tannin as a treatment. So false tannin, the main thing about it is using this form of tannin is a great way of achieving a healthy glow without damaging the skin or risking the skin's health. So the likes.
So that just gives you an idea. You can see there's a student and she's doing a full presentation. So it's providing our students with a lot more skills. So some of the students, when they wrote a report, was absolutely fine, but for their career that they're going into, it's going to be really important for them to have really good communication skills. And a lot of the students had a great sense of building up their self-confidence, their self-esteem, and presenting by actually completing this more UDL project. So she's explaining her Padlet board in the face-to-face class with the rest of her students. But also they actually progressed it on even further, that we did it remotely for other topics. So there was other topics that they had to assess different type of communication skills. And we did that actually remotely via Teams, and the students created their own Ting links and Padlet boards as well for that. And it was a great way for them to build up the skills of their technology skills, their communication and the presentation skills.
Okay, so my name is Sarah.
I'm just going to pass that on a bit. So sustaining the change of course delivery. So bringing all of this new changes within the different modules. is that we need to try and sustain it. So we want to try and bring in this change, as I said, to kind of create a new culture within the college. And we want to create the kind of feeling that people have value and respect. And that's where we need collaboration within the teams. It is also about creating new visions. So it is a new vision that obviously the SOLAS, the TEL strategy, a few years ago, the Blend for Bet brought a new vision of how students can engage in their learning, how we're actually going to meet 21st century learners. Also then we looked at the aspect of bringing in this sustaining is the involvement. So it's bringing in that involvement of a full team to help implement the technology and the learning culture. And then we need to maintain it. So we all need to kind of keep this positive and open culture and kind of sharing of skill sets as well. Then obviously at the end of different terms, or at the ends of years, or every couple of years, we'd always kind of maybe look at doing an analysis of Blend modules. So maybe you're looking at the kind of different strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So we're looking at what went well within Blend modules. What different opportunities do we have? Because we're going to be progressing this on over the next, just say, decade, you know, that it's going to be what opportunities do we have to change, and maybe what are our threats, what could be our impediments, and then maybe what didn't go well. Okay, and I think that's what's going to be really important as well, to look at the strengths but also to see what did not go well. And by using this type of SWOT analysis, by analysing and getting the student's voice as well as the teacher's voice, is what's going to, I think, is going to bring on the progress of the change management within blended learning. So hopefully that just gives you a breakdown of kind of a few different courses of your TEL, your blended learning, UDL and the change management. But it is just to bring in that conclusion that it does require a series of phases. It will take time and effort to plan these changes. It is kind of a systemic approach. So you're looking at different approaches of implementing this change. Developing participation of all teachers in each department. So that's bringing on, and you're looking at each department, the different elements of what could be enhanced by using blended modules, or maybe what modules would you keep traditional. And then enabling learner engagement. And I think that's what our key is kind of getting that learner engagement as we want to educate our students to the best possible. And then that's just the references at the end.